Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, or whatever time zone it is wherever you're in the world. It is your Lore and Saviour, and today we're doing something very different to what I usually do. I'm responding to the video by another YouTuber. This one done by Kristian's Brain, which is far less ominous than I've just made it appear to be. Kristian's Brain does TTRPG little rants and things. Had a couple of, I guess, viral videos, for lack of a better phrase. They did really well about D&D and planning and running games and whatnot. It was about the time the OGL scandal hit the airwaves, so it was very culturally appropriate. But the video in question is his latest one as of the recording of this, the 3rd of September in the year of our Lord 2024, Talos. I'll get that right one day. Where it's basically he was talking about preparing games, particularly D&D, to a fine minutiae, making sure that everything was balanced and everything was all tickety-boo. And Kristian, like myself, is very improvisatory with how we plan things. A lot of our planning and running the game is dependent on what the players do and their stories and, you know, all those different bits that come together. So I, the storyteller, can throw random shit at the wall and see that sticks. Something that I've talked about many times before. If you've bothered listening and watching my campaign diary for my Chicago by Night Chronicle, the playlist to which will appear at the end of the video. And he was basically ended the video asking, like, responses for it. Like, what do people think about all of this? Like, was he crazy for thinking all the things that he thought and said? Or was there some merit to it, I guess? And as I said, we're on a very similar brainwave he and I regarding this subject matter. And I don't so much disagree with bits, but I think I have some bits that I would like to insert into the conversation and also waffle away about how I do things, in case anybody gives a flying monkeys. Now, this thing on balancing every encounter was something that I saw fairly recently when I put out a video saying, oh, you should steal this one idea from Call of Cthulhu. And I had a lot of people saying, oh, well, this wouldn't work so much in D&D because if you don't balance the encounter, the player should die. Well, and my mindset about that is that it puts a lot of stress on the ST, especially when you have like more higher levels or games master if you're coming from this outside of the world of darkness. And trying to find balance and making sure that all these stats and attacks and whatnot just pair up exactly right. And also it gets a bit more ridiculous, some of those higher levels when you've got stats and modifiers that naturally stack on top of each other and weapons and whatnot. And quite frankly, the actual world doesn't work like that. Because if the players go charging into a dragon when they could best like avoid it or sneak around it, then that's really on them, I guess. And if the players do something stupid, it's all reliant on the storyteller to just, or games master, to come up with random shit on the fly. Which a lot of people can't do that very well, particularly with a game with Dungeons & Dragons where, to my immediate knowledge, it doesn't support improvisation all that well because everything's so stat-based and it's maths and there's lots of magic and modifiers and whatnot. So when something unexpected happens, there isn't like a quick hack, as it were, to, you know, inspire the games master. Now, something much simpler like Merkborg or Morgborg, depending on who you ask, all of its weapons and stuff is just like one dice and found in like 3-page spreads. So you could just pick up an appropriate dice and just roll with that. But D&D isn't so straightforward with that, unfortunately. And similarly with World of Darkness to an extent, there aren't like really easy ways of doing things. I've actually talked about my method for ages, the 7-5-3 technique, and you can go and watch about that in a video that's going to pop up in a card now. And I basically haven't used character sheets in ages. I just try and think what's most likely here and roll an appropriate number of dice. Now, if I'm using a specific character from the fiction that has a character sheet, such as Prince Loden from Chicago, then yeah, I've got some stats to work with here, but I know enough about the system and it's free enough to work with to know what is what. Also, the core books of those games give you like very easy to use templates to come up with stuff on the fly, I think. But that's not so much answering the thing about over preparing, because when I started running games I did do a lot of notes. Like the first game I ran ever was on the World of Darkness Twitch channel. It was that Victorian age one-shot Rip the Ripper And I wrote so many notes, and I planned every single bit of this murder mystery to a T. And within seconds of people starting, they did their own fucking thing. And we overran a little bit, and I had to cut things out. And I found that a bit stressful. So, and over time, when I've realised that players are just going to fuck about and find out anyway, and I realised I didn't actually need a lot of notes because I could naturally remember those things, I stopped writing things down as much. Like if I did actual plays, I'd write out like an introductory sort of like spiel to get people into the setting, you know, because there's a bit of televised drama as it was. And if things went wrong, it become Twitter-based drama, but, you know. But really, I didn't write a whole lot of down, and I just started like rolling random dice. But why is it that people insist on this concept of over-preparing? I actually talked a lot more about this in a video on how to storytell. I don't remember the exact wording of the episode, so you can watch that's going to appear in a card right now. But there's quite a few reasons why for this. I mean, as I already said, D&D encourages that sort of play already, where you have to do the fine math on everything and just hope for the best. But I feel there's some other more emotional reasons for this as well. In my experience, with personal things in my life, I do not like forgetting things. I do not like making mistakes, and I do like making things wrong, getting things wrong rather. And now I feel annoyed because I fucked that up, and I would edit that out, but fuck that, that's staying in there just to prove a fucking point. Prove a fucking point. Wow, I'm on a fucking roll here. But the thing is, no scenarios outside of gaming would really like bring me down like getting stuff wrong. There's a whole slew of reasons for that, and I'm not going to bore you with those, it's not the place for it. And you could say that's resulted in varying degrees of trauma, because trauma is a spectrum and things can be triggered at any point whatsoever. Now, this is just my examples. I'm not saying that this is the case of anybody. And there may be individuals who feel like if they get something wrong, or they get a balance encounter incorrect, or whether the players like wipe everything out, they may feel it's too easy, or the inverse, they killed everyone. That's going to upset people, and that will probably look bad on the games master for fucking things up so monumentally, which will make people feel bad, and they're not doing a particularly great job. It may discourage them from running games again. I've read and seen things on this online about this, as I'm sure you've done, have done as well. You know, there are many different factors as to why somebody may feel the need they have to prepare for every single possible encounter that they could conjure up. And of course, given the improvising nature of role-playing games, they're going to miss something. The players are going to pull something out the bag. Dice rolls are going to create unexpected results. I did a vampire one-shot last year for V20, and I envisioned a much larger encounter, but the players all rolled really fucking well. We had criticals across the fucking board. On top of that, my NPCs all rolled fucking horribly. So this encounter that was supposed to take up a good chunk of the session ended up disappearing in like 5-10 minutes because, well, not 5-10 minutes, it actually felt a lot fucking quicker than that, and I was just like, oh. But I didn't beat myself up about it because I knew that the players felt really fucking awesome about it, that, you know, the Sabbat who had attempted to surprise them was able to fight back and to cope really fucking well with it. And there was a lot of really cool fucking roleplay alongside it as well, so they thought they had a blast. So I personally didn't beat myself up about it too much. But I also know there would have been a lot of people who would have been really upset about that, and there would have been some tables who would have said, oh well, that was really fucking easy, what the fuck, man? Like, there are all sorts of reasons for this, and there's no way we can possibly calculate or judge everybody's different experiences, like how people respond to this, that and the other. And, you know, including the factors from their real life as their real life as well, they may feel the need that in order to have some semblance of control and safety and security as a games master, that they may feel the need just to write all these different notes. Perhaps there's somebody like myself who is incredibly fucking forgetful, who has to write all these things down. You know, for one reason or another, maybe they're just really forgetful, or they're ADHD and their mind is just naturally racing all over the place. So unless they have something physically in front of them as a prompt, as a reminder, it doesn't exist. Like, out of mind, out of thought, or whatever the expression is. And that's not limited to ADHD as well. It's a very common thing with neurodiverse people. This is actually something with me to an extent, which makes my style of game mastering even the more fucking baffling, that I can remember all these different fucking things, but I do not remember half the shit I did last week. You know? It's a curious thing. And this is just like one specific examples that I'm providing here. There are probably so many different more I could think of. Like, it could also be like a pacing thing, like, say you've got like this big old car chase planned. After so many rounds this happened, and you may forget things or whatever, or circumstances may change within said car chase and now something else has to happen, you know? So many different examples for it, and this may come across as a nag, or that I'm saying that they're being insensitive, but nah, that's not the intention at all. I'm just saying, like, why is it that some people may feel the need to prepare lots? And I don't personally agree there's such a concept as over-preparing, because it implies that there is this standard that everybody has to prepare games for. Like, if it's below this sort of imaginary threshold, it's not enough, and it's above that, it's too much. At the end of the day, the concept of preparing over or under is really dependent on the games master in question, really, in my opinion. So yeah, that's kind of a waffly rant about the idea of preparing lots for games, or preparing little, or over preparing, or however it is that you want to word it, and however Kristian's brain worded it and his mouth formulated. If you sorry, that was an awful joke, but you know, like, that's just my opinion really. At the end of the day, I'm very good at improvising because I put this down to some of it as my jazz background. Just very good at like improvising thing. I also found that a good knack for it at school, with different bits and pieces, and that's just something I do really well. It's not something that fits well with a lot of people, but lots of people do have to have like lots of notes. I have fuck all. Like, I have like a sentence here and there maybe at most these days, but I just sort of go off and just embrace the chaos. But I can also understand why a lot of people don't function that well, and there are many different reasons for that. Both of it's the game system that they use, the players and their own personal backgrounds, both in games and out of games. To which I say, to my viewers, what do you think about all of this? To my fellow games masters, what do you do to prepare your games, and do you feel that you prepare lots, too much, too little? Has anything I've said helped you out at all? Do you have any advice for anybody who feels that they could rein in some of their preparations and their stress? Or maybe they feel they're not doing it enough. What is it they could do to improve their workflow? However that is, let's have that helpful feedback in the comments below. And also check out Kristian's stuff. I kind of like the little like waffly rants he does, and his like the style he does things. It's very down to earth and not very YouTubery, if I say. If you know what I mean. Like, I feel it's a very genuine performance rather than how I started this video and how I'm ending this video as a comparison, if you see what I mean. But yeah, let's hear all about that in the comments below. Like, share and subscribe to this video if you like what I've done, and whilst you're down there you can check out the various books in the description below, where you can purchase loads of World of Darkness books, particularly Vampire the Masquerade. You purchase them with those books, I get some of the money back to provide more awesome content for you. But I can understand why you may not want to do this, because, you know, times are hard and all that. But if you can't, that's fine. Just like, share and subscribe. That also helps as well. And I'll see you on the next upload, whatever that may well be for you. Until next time, farewell.